G'day everyone, thanks for joining us for this live Q&A as we're going to talk about how to beat the price rise, the premium rise for private health insurance that's due on April the 1st. So this is a Facebook and TikTok live session brought to you by Your Money and Your Life in partnership with Compare the Market. I'm David Koch, the host of Your Money and Your Life and also Economic Director at Compare the Market. We're streaming live on Your Money and Your Life Facebook and YouTube and Compare the Market's TikTok accounts as well. So a shout out to all the Zoomers who want to listen to a boomer like me. Certainly not to our guest though. Stuart Omodei is not a boomer at all, slightly younger than me, but he's the guru from Compare the Market on private health insurance. Stuart, good to have you aboard to answer all our questions.
Thanks, David. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Now, Stuart has worked in private health insurance for more than 10 years. He's a board member of FIA, which stands for Private Health Insurance Intermediaries Association.
Nailed it.
So that's a big one, but basically it's an association of all the private health insurers and the market, isn't it, to make sure everyone's doing the right thing?
Yeah, that's right, David. So Compare the Market's a member of the Private Health Insurance Intermediaries Association, proud member. And yeah, look, really excited to have this conversation today, David, tackling the rate rise. It's literally just couple of weeks away. So.
Yeah, 1st of April, it's been agreed that the average rate rise is going to be the biggest for 7 years, isn't it?
Exactly right, yes. So you've hit the nail on the head there. David, 3.73 is the biggest increase in private health insurance in over 7 years. So comes at a time, I guess, a lot of people were getting some relief with interest rate cuts, and now they're getting hit with a premium increase on their private health insurance. One thing that's really interesting, it's a lot of disparity, David. I'm looking forward to diving into this conversation. Obviously, we'll answer the questions that people have at home, but a lot of disparity between the health insurers who are increasing the most and the health insurers who are decreasing the least.
Because that's the big myth, isn't it? And as Stuart was saying, plenty of time to take your questions. If you've got any questions at all on private health insurance, how to beat the price hike that is coming, send your questions through and we'll plough through as many as we possibly can. Because the good news is, even though it could be costing average Australians hundreds and hundreds of dollars extra in premiums, you can fight back. There are ways of limiting the pain.
Absolutely.
And that's what Stuart's here to share. So send your questions through. During this discussion, send them through early. Last time we did a Q&A session, we got a whole heap towards the end and we ran out of time. So don't be shy, get in really quickly. So Stuart, explain that the federal government says to the private health insurers, yes, you can put up your private health insurance premiums on the 1st of April by an average of 3.73%. Now, most of us think, oh, they're all going to go up by that amount together. But it's not, is it?
No.
What the hell do they put this figure out for then?
Yeah. Look, it does create some confusion. And like I mentioned before, there is disparity. There's actually some health insurers going up as high as 9.56%, which it's obviously a little bit higher than 3.73.
What, triple?
Yeah, that's
what's
right.
been announced?
Yes, and at the same time, there's some insurers that are going up as low as 1.5 or 1.7%. So one of those insurers, HIF Health Insurance Fund Australia, who we work with quite closely at Compare the Market, 1.91%. So it goes to show you there's probably been never more important of a time to have a look around, see what your insurer is doing in terms of percentages, because it's not even just at a health fund level, it's also at a policy level as well, David. Okay. So, you know, some policies might even be going backwards in price, so they might actually be reducing, but then there's other policies that could be going up quite substantially over the next couple of weeks.
So the first thing everybody should be doing is just when that renewal comes through or the notification from your health fund, understand whether they are putting it up way more than what's been publicly made available. The health minister said they are going up because it will change from policy to policy.
That's right.
What about the inclusions in a policy as well? You know, some may drop their premiums, but is that because they're fiddling around with what we're covered for?
Yeah.
Is that something we've got to watch out for too?
Absolutely. And the good news is that it won't come as a surprise to a lot of people. They should be getting this notification from their health funds well and truly in advance. So this is in relation to any
so
policy
about now,
changes. Yeah,
because it
that's
comes
right.
in 3 weeks, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's not too far away. So we've already had notice from a lot of our health funds we work quite closely with that they're starting to communicate. So that does give a lot of Australians plenty of time to see how they're faring compared to the rest of the market. However, sometimes communications can be as late as a week before the actual increase. So, you know, if you got it now, get in early, have a look, see what's out there, because all the health funds on their website are now displaying what their April 1st price will be.
So they're going to change their premiums. Will they change the level of cover or what's included and what's not included?
Possibly is the answer to that.
So that's a trap as well.
It's important to review not only your premium when it comes through, David, but if there is a change to your policy, hopefully not a drastic one, they'll have it highlighted pretty clearly in red, you know, that there's a detrimental change to your policy. Hopefully not, but the funds do from time to time make changes to their policy. So it's a good one to double check. Absolutely.
So step one, read your policy. If it comes to your inbox or it comes through the mail, however you're notified, just don't accept it and go, oh yeah, well, all the premiums are going up. I can't do anything about it.
That's right.
I'll just cop it.
Yeah.
Don't automatically renew.
I encourage you to have a bit of a spring clean on your health insurance, really, David. I can imagine a lot of people don't know what their inclusions are or the exclusions are on their policy. So even if they get notified that something's been removed from their cover, they might have been none the wiser in the first place. So first tip, get to know your policy. Know the inclusions, the exclusions, the restrictions, your limits, rebates, waiting periods, all that sort of stuff. And look, even if that's all a little bit daunting for you, and let's face it, health insurance is probably not the most easy topic for people to understand.
It is hard.
It's definitely worth maybe even speaking to somebody, whether it's your health fund or if you jump online and search for a comparison site. A lot of these people are trained in private health insurance and they can absolutely point you in the right direction.
Okay, all right. We'll do your questions as we go through the session. Alexandra on TikTok saying, what would you say to people who ask, what's the best health insurance for me?
That's a really good question, Alex. You can imagine it's one that we get a fair bit to compare the market. You know, our health insurance experts speak to people about this all the time. It's a really common question. In short, it purely depends on your needs, right? So not all health funds are the same. It purely depends on your needs. With the government reforms, which have been in place since 2019, would you believe? I can't believe it's been out there for so long. It has made it a lot easier for customers to compare and find the right level of cover. It's basically, bronze looks good or silver looks good. Where there's a little bit of confusion, and it can be quite confusing for customers, is extras, right? Sometimes you could be getting 100% back on a service, or sometimes you might only be getting $30 back on a service. So the best thing I recommend, Alex, would be have a look out there, do a comparison, and try to find one that will give you the best money back on your extras, where they're actually services that you're utilising on a regular basis.
So if you need glasses, make sure you've got extras.
Absolutely.
And my wife don't need pregnancy care, so you don't need, or baby massages. We don't need that. So you can. The message to Alexandra is you can tailor your health insurance basically to you, and that's what you're saying.
Exactly right.
Make sure you think it through. Now, remember, this is general advice, Alexandra, to everyone. We can't give you specific advice because we don't know you from a bar of soap, but these are just all thought starters for you. So, Alexandra, you can find the right one for you. But say Alexandra is over 30, turning 30, and then she's subject to the Medicare levy surcharge on particular salary levels, or if you're on a wage level above a certain minimum, you must have private health insurance, or you get slugged at extra tax. What if she's in that situation? What should she be doing?
Yeah, absolutely. And people taking out hospital cover for Medicare levy surcharge, it's a really good idea. Quite often, the cost of the policy could be very similar to what you're getting taxed. So if you're a single earning roughly more than $90,000 a year, or a couple earning more than $180,000 a year, just a little bit over that, you're going to get taxed with up to a 1.5% extra tax. So
if you don't have private health insurance,
have private health insurance cover, so when you do those figures, that's about $1,100 that you could be getting taxed as a single for not having hospital cover. When you look at the average price of a policy like a bronze policy, it's probably roughly around $1,300 or $1,400. So if you're a high income earner, absolutely in that situation, it would be a good idea.
Okay. And the really important part is remember that it's basic hospital cover. We had in Your Money and Your Life, the last series, we had a case study, a young bloke whose accountant said, hey, you're going to get hit with this surcharge because your wage is over this level, you've just turned 30. Get the cheapest private health cover you possibly can. So he got extras cover, which is not basic hospital.
Yeah.
So we had to say to him, mate, that's terrific, but you've still be paying the tax, and they had the cover as well. So it's got to be basic hospital at the very minimum.
At the minimum, David, yeah. And you'll find that most hospital policies these days do satisfy the Medicare levy surcharge, but if you're not sure, always good to have a chat with your health fund or speak to an expert.
Okay. All right. Sal on TikTok again saying, can I switch my private health insurance cover before I get my rate rise letter? Well, number one, wait for your letter. Sure, it could be coming soon. Because you might be on a good deal. You never know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So understand what you're going to be paying first.
Yeah.
But then what should you do?
Look, we're really busy at the moment to compare the market. We've got a lot of people comparing their health insurance. It's once again a really common question that does come up.
Yeah.
It's probably the best time to compare because we know exactly what the rates are going up to on April 1. So we know what the current price is as well. So when we're speaking to customers, very easy conversation to go, look, at the moment, David, you're paying $200 a month. On April 1st, it's $220. So that really helps inform the conversation. In addition to that, there's a lot of really good offers in market at the moment too.
Right.
So agnostic to what's going on with private health insurance increases, the health funds are really rolling out the welcome mat at the moment. They want people to come in.
So this is the time to get a deal.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right.
It is the best time to compare.
What incentives are they?
It does vary. So, there's health funds are waiving waiting periods on extras, for example. So that's particularly useful for someone who's looking for new cover or looking for higher cover. Right. They can get into something like general dental straight away for their checkups and cleans, those types of pieces, or maybe get their glasses done. So it does vary from fund to fund, so it's important to have a look around. The one I think a lot of people get excited about, particularly during a cost of living crisis, is the free periods. So we actually have a good trusted partner who's offering up to 8 weeks free at the moment. Doesn't sound like much on the surface, but when you sort of play that out on a
2 months over a year, yeah, for free.
That's right. If you think of it that way, a $300 a month policy, that's $600 roughly back in your pocket just by signing up during this period. So absolutely worth checking it out. There's 6 weeks free, 8 weeks free, waiting period waivers. It is absolutely a good time to compare.
And also, correct me if I'm wrong, if you decide to switch, say the rate rise letter comes and you can find a better deal elsewhere, and it's a policy on the same level with a different company, you don't have waiting periods apply for the new policy? Because a lot of people might think to themselves, oh, if I switch, there's going to be a gap when I'm not covered of 8 weeks or 9
Yes.
weeks or whatever
Yes.
with waiting periods. Is
Yes.
that right if you switch on the same cover?
Yeah, exactly
Level.
right. And it's one of the things that really quite upsets me each year, David, when we find somebody really good policy, saving money, maybe even getting better benefits on their extras cover, but that fear of the waiting periods is what's holding them back from making the switch. And look, it's understandable. You've served potentially a 12-month waiting period for something. You're a little bit anxious around switching. You don't want to have to serve those waiting periods again. But exactly to your point, I think you articulate that pretty well,
Right.
David. You won't have to reserve your waiting periods for anything that you've currently got. So it is a caveat on that is that if you've got something new, or if it's something where you're getting a higher benefit, you have to serve a waiting period for that new inclusion or higher benefit. But if you've got $300 for dental now and you've got $300 for dental with your new policy, you can get access to that straight away. That's no problem at all.
That's a real comfort for a lot of people, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and it's something that holds people back from switching.
Yeah,
So,
quite rightly.
If that's one thing that you take away from this session with us today, if you've got private health insurance, don't hold back because of waiting periods, because you do have that continuity of cover.
And just Sal, your question: can I switch before I get my rate rise letter? What if Sal's quite happy with their fund?
Yep.
The rise, annoying, you don't want to pay it. Can Sal renew before the 1st of April?
Yep.
And get the current deal for the next 12 months rather than the higher premium?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, if you're in a financial position where you can pay up your health insurance 12 months in advance, highly recommend it. It's a really good idea. Absolutely, Sal. If you were to jump online and find a policy and you're wanting to lock in that current rate for 12 months, absolutely can do that. In addition, your previous insurer will refund you anything that you paid up in advance as well. So let's say, for example, if you still had another month running and your policy is $300 a month, if you had roughly around a month left of cover period, you'd get that full month back worth of premium. So I guess the point I'm trying to get across, Koch, is the strings, the locks, the bolts of some other products where there's a lot of restrictions, they're not in place with private health insurance. So there's portability, you get fully refunded. Yep. It's really, in the consumer's interest to find a better deal at this time of year.
And for everything. The other thing that holds people back is I might have some sort of genetic condition.
Sure.
And you think to yourself, gee, if I switch private health insurers,
yes,
will they take a dimmer view on my condition and charge me a lot more? Am I better to stay with my current cover that know me and just cop it?
And I think that's pretty fair. And I think a lot of people would think that when switching health cover. It's a very personal purchase, health cover, because we're talking about your health needs.
Yep.
The good news in that situation is health insurance is community rated. So regardless of whether you're a smoker or if you've got a personal previous condition, whatever it might be, your premiums will be the same as somebody who doesn't have that. So, and when it comes to that situation, your new insurer wouldn't look any worse on you.
See, that I think is another myth, because when we think insurance, we think like car, home and contents. If I have a bingle in my car and have an accident.
I had one recently too.
The premium's going to go up if I switch elsewhere. I'll be a higher risk.
Yes.
But in health insurance, that is not the case. You're no higher risk as an individual than the rest of the community. So you can move across and not be disadvantaged at all if you have a condition.
Yeah, absolutely. I've just got a stat here. We just recently saved somebody by adjusting their cover ever so slightly, very similar level of cover. We saved them around $600 switching from their previous cover. So I'd hate in that situation for somebody to go, I'm worried about waiting periods, or if I'm worried about my condition. If you've served the waits with your previous cover, you're good to go.
Right, okay. So again, as we were saying, there there aren't that many shackles on you in terms of holding you hostage to your existing
feels like a little bit.
But there aren't many, Stuart, are
No.
there? And unlike other types of insurance, health is a pretty fair playing field.
Yeah,
Going
absolutely.
along.
Absolutely.
Susan asked the obvious question that we all have at the moment: why is there a rate rise? It is total madness in the cost of living. Why is it up? And you being on the association would
Yes.
understand that the cost of health and providing not health insurance cover, but just health facilities is way above inflation, isn't it?
Yeah, I really enjoyed your recent conversation with Rachel David, where I think you got a really good perspective on the why the rate rise does happen. But it's a pretty natural question I think a lot of people have on their minds. Put it down to a couple of simple factors. We've got an ageing population. We're not getting any younger, us Australians.
Yeah.
There is a bit of a decline in birth rate as well. So just a couple of factors like that. More chronic disease and illness, that does drive up premiums quite substantially. Advancing technologies, AI, it's overwhelming, the amount of new technologies coming through in the health space. So that all drives up more costs, things like pharmaceuticals. Health inflation's well and truly higher than that average 3.73% increase. So to my earlier comment, I was actually quite surprised. I thought we might have seen a bigger increase. Fortunately not.
Maybe because there's a federal election coming. I'm just saying, don't want to be too cynical.
Yeah. Possibly. So look, all those factors do play into it, David.
Yeah.
So the most important thing is that there is that disparity this year. There's some going up smaller amounts and bigger amounts. You can get ahead of it by checking out your options.
Okay. All right. And you're talking about AI and technology. Of course, everyone's got a question what is coming out on digital and the whole thing. So Ace said, say hello to me if you're real. So yes, Ace, we are real and we are live. We're not bots saying any of this. Look, let's look at the different types of cover. A lot of people automatically go to gold cover, and you're talking about to Alexandra about tailoring your private health insurance to your particular needs. But a lot of people just automatically go, gold's the best, I need it, that's for me. That's too simplistic, isn't it? I used to think that until my wife sat me down and lectured me. She runs all our household finances and basically pointed out the only difference between gold and, say, Silver Plus is pregnancy services.
Yeah.
Which, let me tell you, my wife and I don't need at the moment.
Well, off here, you're talking about all your grandchildren, David, so I don't think you need to add any more to the mix. So, look, in terms of gold cover, it absolutely has its place. It's the most comprehensive level of cover you can have with your private health insurance, and it certainly serves its purpose for the likes of pregnancy cover. Look, if you're willing to part ways with pregnancy, weight loss, or private hospital cover for in-hospital psychiatric services, absolutely, Silver Plus would be a good option. I do know in a case study that you guys were actually looking at in conjunction with us, there was a family paying around $8,000 or $9,000, and by simply going down to a silver or bronze policy, we could almost half that bill for them. So that's not a short chunk of change, $3,000 or $4,000. But at the same time, layer that with, whilst the savings are really tempting, it is important to make sure you've got the right level of cover. You don't want to underinsure yourself. We do hear stories all the time where people do that, so take your time with it. If you're not sure, it is a good idea to have a chat with your health fund or an expert. Personally, with the private system for me, I've got two young kids, 6 and 4, Sierra and Isla, hey girls, and they were through the private system and also through IVF. So by having the private health insurance in place, the IVF out-of-pocket expenses, which can be pretty drastic, were substantially reduced. So that took a lot of burden off us through a pretty exciting time for us, a pretty stressful time actually through the IVF. But with the pregnancy side of things, not only getting your own private room, having your own choice of doctor, all those benefits that come with private health insurance, it covered, I think I looked at the bill when the health funds billed it, it was roughly around $30,000 or $40,000 that the health fund covered. So, you know, that's a great story of somebody who's used private health insurance in the past and has got lots of value out of it. It's definitely worth, if you can remove some of those items and you're trying to keep savings down, it's a good idea. Right. Equally, don't underinsure yourself, guys. I don't want to see any people in that situation.
And while we're on that, congratulations to Matt, who is behind the camera here, who told us today he's expecting his first in September. So, Stuart, while you've been explaining all of that, Matt has been furiously taking notes in terms of cover and what to do.
Gold covers for you, Matt.
But if you're not going to be Matt and expecting a child, and you're someone middle-aged or older, senior Australian like myself, you know, Silver Plus is the way to go. Even though you automatically you think to yourself, I want the best cover, I want gold, nothing but the best. It's just a waste of money.
They're not going to roll out a red carpet for you when you go into hospital.
No, exactly
David,
right.
Yeah.
Another question, of course, is an obvious one a lot of people have. What happens if I ditch my cover altogether? There's the old saying, insurance is an absolute waste of money until you need it. And then it can be really costly if you don't have it.
Absolutely.
But apart from the fact that you might be slugged with more tax in terms of a Medicare surcharge levy, it just is incredibly financially vulnerable for you as well, isn't it? If you just ditch it altogether. And some people say, well, we have a great public health system. Why do I need private health cover in the first place?
And once again, it's a really good question. And when it comes to your personal circumstances, it depends. Like I mentioned before, it's a really good idea just to do a spring clean on your policy. You might not even know what you're covered for. If you haven't used your extras in the last 12 months, I think that's signalling maybe you need to do something about that. If you haven't gone for your regular checkups and cleans, or if you haven't claimed on that pair of glasses, or seen what other great benefits you can get under your extras cover, strong chance that maybe that's what you should be considering opting out, or maybe even just going down to a lower level of cover and not paying that much on your premiums. Right. Hospital covers are a really, really interesting one, because exactly to your point, you may think you're young, indefensible, indestructible, all good at the moment, but you never know what's around the corner. So private hospital cover gives you a lot of flexibility, allows you to avoid those lengthy public waiting lists. All you have to do is have a look through the newspaper or search waiting lists in Google at the moment. You can see that they are starting to ramp up quite a lot. So having that little safeguard in place does give a lot of people peace of mind.
And when it comes to your health, it's not just the financial risk you're putting yourself at, but also the emotional stuff. When you're crook or you've had an accident, the last thing you want to be is worrying about costs.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just want the best coverage.
And it's really easy for people to think, is that the next logical step? Because they haven't claimed in a long time. They just see their regular direct debits going out. I totally understand where people are coming from with that perspective, but rather than dropping it all together, reassess your situation. To your point, maybe have a look at, do I need it for the Medicare levy surcharge purposes? Am I over the age of 30 and probably need to maintain hospital cover so I don't have to pay more for it in the future with the lifetime health cover loading? Or, you know, do I just want to have something to safeguard myself, like ambulance cover, accident cover, just in case, you know?
Yeah. Stuart, you make a really good point, because if you've just turned 30 and you've said, no, I'm not going to have a basic hospital cover, and you get slugged your tax, at age 40, when your conditions and family situation may have changed, and you do want cover, then that 10 years that you haven't had
20%.
20% higher. So you're actually got to pay for it in 10 years. You've got to be slugged a penalty in 10 years, basically saying, well, you decided not to do it 10 years ago, so we're going to charge you more now that you've finally come to your senses. Yeah,
you've basically beaten yourself into a 20% price increase over the 3.73. So
Yeah. No, I know, that's tough. Vanessa says, might be a silly question. Vanessa, there are no silly questions as far as I'm concerned. Are there any health insurance providers that cover GP costs, GP visits? $60 out of pocket each time I see my GP.
Yeah, really good question, Vanessa. I know it's one that is very topical at the moment because their health insurers are always looking for ways to provide more value back to their members.
Yeah.
At the moment, outpatient procedures, you're typically not going to get a lot of money back or anything at all for those types of pieces. However, maybe a bit of good news, Vanessa, there's quite a lot of health funds that do provide cover for video appointments. So whilst you might not be able to physically visit the GP, you can probably get one of those telehealth appointments, which, you know, for a lot of people, that's even helpful in itself. So the best recommendation there is speak to your current health fund, see if they offer that. If they don't, there are other ones out there. So highly recommend doing a comparison. Okay,
so you do have options, Vanessa.
Absolutely.
So that's really good. Jake asks, really good question, Jake. They all are. Stuart, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self? Stuart's only 25, so it's not that long ago. But what advice in terms of private health insurance cover?
Yeah, I'm glad you steered it towards private health insurance cover, David, because I think my 35-year-old self would have given my 20-year-old advice a lot different. But no, in terms of health insurance, look, depending on your circumstances, if you're on your family cover still at 20, recent reforms have allowed people to stay on their family cover up until the age of 31. So, you know, rather than going out and finding your own policy, if it's at all an option, and it does vary from fund to fund, so once again, it's another reason why you should speak to somebody about a comparison, because the rules do vary around adult dependents with funds. But I'd be staying on my family policy as long as I can. I'd probably take the same advice around renting as well. I probably could have stayed with mum and dad for a little bit longer and put that money back into my pocket. But hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the question, Jake. Another one, my health insurance went up by around 5% last year, but we only switched in the middle of the year. How often can you switch?
Wow, that's quite a big increase, you know. So, and the good news is you can switch as often as you like. However, just want to caveat is that's a lot of manual work to go out and constantly be comparing your health insurance. On average, we set the expectation that you should compare once every 12 months just to do a hygiene check, make sure that you're comfortable with everything on your policy. But look, there's nothing stopping you from switching more regularly. But I'd just challenge it. It's probably not something you want to do too regularly. Equally, if your health circumstances change or if your personal finance situation changes, absolutely check it out. There's no bad time really to compare your health insurance and find a better deal.
Look, as I've mentioned many times before, all the years I was on TV, my wife manages our household finances. She is the best at it. I do all the investing. She manages it. She has a rule: you never automatically renew any insurance cover ever, no matter what it is. Private health insurance, car, home and contents, whatever. Every time you get a renewal notice, you go and double check to see you've got the best.
And it may be very well you're on the best deal, you know, and good news.
Sleep well at night.
Absolutely, yeah. And look, we're not afraid to have a conversation. So we're up in Brisbane. It's been a pretty crazy 72 hours for the team at Compare the Market with Cyclone Alfred, but the guys have been working from home, some of them in their PJs, I'm sure. You know, that they speak to people about this all the time, and they can definitely point in the right direction.
Okay. Shirley says, I've had a mental health moment about 15 years ago, so I want to be sure I'm fully covered if it does happen again. Shirley, that would be hanging around and worrying you for a long time, so I hope you're all good now. Shirley says, so only gold cover to protect me with a mental health issue, is that right?
Yeah.
Shirley should. Now remember, can't give specific advice, only general guidance on this, because Shirley, we don't know you at all, but would that be fair for Shirley to say only gold?
Yeah, look, you're going to find that it's typically gold policies that will cover that for you, Shirley. Fortunately, with in-hospital psychiatry, it does have a standard 2-month waiting period regardless of pre-existing conditions. So
Right.
if you did exit cover and you needed to get back into it, it is a shorter waiting period than what you would for other hospital services. But you're typically going to be looking at a gold level of cover there, Shirley. Main reason behind that is because it is a high risk inclusion on health insurance policies. So the insurers are going to be asking for a little bit more money on the premiums for that one. So equally, there are some health funds that do have it on Silver Plus. Once again, have a look around, but typically it's going to be on gold.
Okay. Alana wants to know, at what age should you consider adding your children/dependents?
Yeah, absolutely. Straight away.
Yeah.
There's no reason why you can't jump onto it straight away, Alana. So when you go from a couples policy to a family policy, typically the insurers don't actually charge any extra as well in most situations. So, if you've got 5 or 6 or 7 kids, you can add them onto your policy, and you're typically not going to be paying more to have them all included on the cover. The caveat is when they do get a little bit older, this is typically over the age of 21, the health funds may charge for a little bit of a supplement to keep them under the cover. But absolutely do it straight away. A lot of the health funds, and obviously good advice for you, Matt, is to add it on before the birth. So get in touch with your health funds. They'll point in the right direction.
Doesn't cost you any more. So when do you take your kids off as dependents?
Once you have to start getting charged, I guess.
So at 21 they start to charge a bit more. Do they charge, as someone who's got adult children, do they charge you the cost of an adult?
It's going to be roughly around the same price as a single policy. Yeah,
Right.
I guess the typical on family covers, you're going to have something a little bit more comprehensive than what a 21-year-old's going to be looking for. They're probably erring on the side of a basic, just something quite simple. Whereas, Dale, I'm sure you're on a pretty good policy, I'd say. But it all depends on your situation, which health fund you're with. But yeah, it's a really interesting piece. I don't think a lot of people realise that it doesn't cost more to add your kids.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a good bonus for it. Another good question, with an ageing population, will that affect our premiums in the future? Now, interestingly, Australia's not really going through an ageing population, would you believe, because of our migration policies. We're one of the few countries in the world where population average population age has stayed relatively stable and at times has gone down, would you believe? And the other thing, just as to throw in as well, reliance on the age pension because of our super is going to halve over the next 20 years.
Wow. Okay.
Number of people on the age pension and being a drain on the economy because of superannuation compared with the rest of the world. So we're in a pretty good spot in this country.
In answer to the question, I think it is yes, because it's not even an ageing population as well. It's chronic illness as well. There's a lot more mental illness. There's a lot of people with health challenges, new health challenges that we haven't had to face before in Australia. So over time, that will absolutely increase the cost of premiums. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, in a non-election year, to your point, David, if that has any influence on the next premium. That could see it starting to increase a little bit more.
Right.
But certainly those types of factors are what drives high premiums.
Right. When I did the interview with Rachel David from Private Health Insurance Association, she was saying there's a lot the government can do in terms of what they ask hospitals to do in terms of buying equipment, that it's a really old-fashioned way, an expensive way that we buy medical equipment here in Australia that's adding to the cost of health and our cover.
Yeah, and it's very topical at the moment. The private hospitals and the health funds are in constant discussions and negotiations on how to do things better. I think we can all agree that something has to give, because there are hospitals shutting down at the moment, which is really, really sad to see. So look, over the next 12 to 18 months, hopefully there's some additional reforms to help address these pieces. I know that the private hospitals, the health funds and the government are working really hard on that, just to help address some of these challenges that are driving up premiums for customers.
Okay. Next question from Jeff. Will psychiatrists out of hospital ever be covered? I'm going to have to pay $700 out tomorrow or more. Will that ever be covered, do you think?
Yeah, look, Jeff, thanks for your question, first of all. And, you know, once again, a really common question that gets asked around, you know, outpatient services and whether they're covered. Once again, it does vary from fund to fund. There are some health funds that do pay a benefit towards outpatient costs. It's typically not a huge amount. A lot of the health funds will cover counselling, psychology services to varying amounts depending on the level of cover that you're on. What I'd suggest is jump on Search Compare Health Insurance and speak to an expert,
right.
And they can certainly look. They're all trained. You know, under the Private Health Insurance Intermediaries Associate. That's such a mouthful, David. Under FIA, I should say. There's a big obligation that anyone who wants to be a comparator of private health insurance to have to take their staff through some pretty detailed training. So Compare the Market, our team go through 4 weeks of full-time training, in addition to that 4 weeks of service training on top of that, where, you know, they're taking limited calls. So take it really seriously. So speak to one of our experts. They're all trained in private health insurance, and I'm sure that they can give you a solid answer there, Jeff. Yep.
Another question. I have a son, 27, with a disability. Money-wise, should I leave him on our policy or get his own policy? Can he still be a dependent?
I feel like a bit of a recorder on some of these answers, David, but look, it's such a good question, you know, because once again, it does vary from fund to fund. So there are some insurers that will cover a disabled child on their policy at no additional premiums up until the age of 31.
Isn't that great?
It was one of the reforms that came through recently that really struck a chord, and I think a lot of people really appreciated it.
Yep.
Because in that situation, paying your own policy on top of you know, an additional child, you know, to be covered on, and typically in that situation might be needing a higher level of cover. That's a lot of money for a family. So once again, you know, jump on, do a comparison, and one of our experts can certainly point in the right direction.
Isn't that great? Some policies don't add any extra if your child has a disability and a dependent up to age 31. So that's a great tip for you to take advantage of. So go and compare.
Absolutely.
Look, we're coming up towards the end. Thank you to all the football supporters for your support or your sledge. I've had a lot of Go Power or GWS or Go to Win, whoever. I love your passion. If you play community football, don't forget you need private health insurance for injuries and things like that.
Absolutely.
And also, we've had a lot of questions, which is a bit off topic for this live Q&A, but we might do one the next week or two on economic forecast and interest rates. Will interest rates drop anymore? Look, my short answer is that it's a really uncertain period. We saw a big crash on Wall Street last night because all of the financial markets are saying Donald Trump increasing tariffs will feed into higher inflation, which then feeds into interest rate rises around the world. So even though we've just had a cut and everything was looking good, Trump has turned everything on its head. So it's a day-by-day economic financial reality show with Donald Trump at the moment. So no one knows what happens when you wake up in the morning and he's done some wild thing. But markets hate uncertainty. Hate uncertainty.
Absolutely.
That's why they're spooked. So hopefully it just shuts up for a period of time and we all go back to normal. But it's pretty hard on the outlook at the moment. But we will keep you up to date Look, through all the work I put in to compare the market, we put a lot of those sorts of views out. My weekly newsletter, ymyl.com.au. Go to that and register. It's free. It's in your inbox every Friday. There's lots of ways how you can keep up to date with exactly what's going on, but it is pretty uncertain. But the big point, the big project for everyone over the next 2 or 3 weeks is go and check your private health insurance policy. The rise you're going to get hit with, what your policy actually covers and whether it's meeting your needs at the moment. And then, Stuart, go and double check with everybody else. It's pretty easy to change, and you won't be set back by changing at all. There are very few barriers.
Yeah, I think that's summarised it really well, Kochie, and I really appreciate your time today. But I think keep an eye out for that letter. If it hits your junk mail, just check your junk mail. The health funds, yeah, look, it's always a good tip.
Do they do that deliberately?
I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think there's something probably illegal about that. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But no, look, the funds probably don't do it, Kochie. But, check it out. Get your letter, scrutinise it, have a look at your inclusions, exclusions, restrictions. That's the first step. If you haven't received your 8 Lives letter, that's okay. Just find out the name of your policy. You might be able to do that by digging around in your emails or your online members service area.
Yep.
Next, that's the fun part. Jump online, see what you can find.
Yep.
Guys, quite often we're able to find people better deals, saving money on their health insurance, and it's just go out there and compare. It doesn't matter who it's with.
Yep.
Jump online, compare health insurance, and I'm sure you'll be able to find something pretty special around the corner.
And if you can't find a better deal, great. Pat yourself on the
Happy
back
days.
and say you're on the perfect cover, which is
Absolutely.
which is what you're after for everyone, aren't you?
Yes.
Stuart, great to have you. Thank you very much for answering all the questions. Now, get comparing. Comparethemarket.com.au is where you go and start checking. And also, as I said, subscribe to my weekly newsletter, My Money Digest, and the link is in the comments. So thank you for watching and listening on Facebook, on TikTok and all our other channels as well. Hopefully it's been of real benefit and you can really save some money and get great coverage as well. And we'll see you next time for another live Q&A.